Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. We got a mailbag on today's docket. Should be a fun one to talk here. I am Nic Rohloff. Welcome into Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. First question coming in from Anthony Manzano. Do the Dolphins have enough capital to trade for young veteran players at positions of need that don't want to be on their current teams that are rebuilding, and who would you trade for? What are we talking, Miami Heat basketball here? All jokes aside, Dolphins, listen, you can always make a swing for a trade because just like in all sports, you can trade away some of your own guys to get draft capital to reroute it to another team. But the thing is with this Dolphins roster is that they are in win-now mode, right? They have a lot of veterans on this team. And when you think of the landscape of this team, Anthony, there's not really too many positions where you're sitting there and you're like, dang, we need a nice little young player that is proven to upgrade. The only one, and I just hate to keep on bringing it up, is right guard, right? And I don't know, is there going to be a significant offensive guard or interior offensive lineman to come available soon that you can trade for? And would it be worth using your draft capital to trade for them? I'm not sure, but when you look at the positions that you are always looking for someone to potentially be looking to swap teams and you send in your trades, right? You think wide receiver, you think quarterback, and you think secondary for the most part, or offensive tackle. Dolphins are set at all of these, right? They're good at O-tackle. You drafted Patrick Paul to replace Teron Armstead. You signed Austin Jackson. You have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle at wide receiver. Jalen Ramsey, as he's getting older, still under contract for a couple seasons. Kendall Fuller signed a 2-year deal, so you don't have to address these positions this year. Maybe this question is more framed towards the long term, but if we're going to be honest, I'm going to take a cop-out answer here and say the Dolphins will have enough capital into the future because they will not be looking to make a massive trade, at least in my mind, over the next 12 months, if you will. Maybe the following offseason is when they could possibly go in and spend the capital they have to try to get a blockbuster player. Make sure you are following me over on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff. My Twitter's been kind of been popping off lately, mostly because of the Heat, but I do cover the Dolphins as well. We cover both primary Miami sports teams and the Dolphins and Heat. You get daily Dolphins coverage, Dolphins highlights. We're 45 followers from 1,200. Help me out. Let's get there. I won't disappoint you. Andy Amigo with a hashtag Dolphins. Is the quarterback curse over in Miami? Well, that remains to be seen. I believe Tua is on the right track to make sure this curse is broken. Having the league leading in passing yards last year with 4,600 kind of signifies that it's heading in the right direction, at least. But there is always the concern with Tua that one hit could end his entire career. That's something I don't want to think about. I don't even want to try to bring it up into existence. But I do believe, Andy, that the quarterback curse of just mediocrity is coming to a close. No matter what your opinion of Tua Tagovailoa is, he's a top 12 guy. He runs this Mike McDaniel offense extremely effective and efficiently. This is a quarterback that can get you a lot of wins and probably an AFC East crown. I know the late season struggles have been frustrating over the past 2 seasons. Maybe I'm an optimist. I do believe that will change this upcoming season. Jack Lotteray coming in with a question. Am I reading this right? Is the Dolphins signing Greg Van Roten still on the table this far into this offseason? Well, this is a great question, Jack. And the answer is yes. So, to be shocked, the Dolphins have $16 million cap space. For a team that just 2 months or 3 months ago at this point, whenever free agency opened in early March, the Dolphins did not have a lot of cap space. That led them to lose Andrew Van Ginkle, lose Robert Hunt, lose Christian Wilkins, lose Jerome Baker, right? They lost some of these key guys on their team that were getting bigger offseason or bags elsewhere because they couldn't have the cap space. But after good manipulation by Chris Greer, the post-June 1 cut of Xavier Howard, they have $16 million cap space even after signing Calais Campbell and Marcus May. Greg Van Roten, the best interior offensive lineman available on the free agency market. Also, the only one that would be able to start for Miami day one, if you're asking me, after having an excellent season for the Raiders a year ago. Yes, Greg Van Roten should be the number one target for the Miami Dolphins this offseason, and they do have enough money to go sign him. I don't know what we're waiting for. Chase with a question. What are the realistic expectations for Miami in 2024? Oh, I think it's very simple. The AFC East must be won at a very bare minimum. Like this is the worst that can happen. Like, and this is a different question, I guess, in its own right. If you win the AFC East but lose your first playoff game, is that a successful season? I'm not sure if the answer to that is yes. But with this type of roster, how good you are at wide receiver, good at edge, good at D-line, good in the secondary, with an older roster as well, right? A lot of veterans on this team. There should be no thought in your mind that comes less than AFC East crown, because that gets you a home playoff game as well, where you're hosting in the 305, where if you're playing a game in Miami in January in the postseason, you're expected to win. So to me, I think the expectation should be an AFC East championship. It should also be a playoff win. If the Dolphins, say, go 11-6, win the AFC East, are the third seed in the AFC, win their first playoff game, but fall on the road to a Baltimore or Kansas City in the second round, in the divisional round, I wouldn't be happy about it. I wouldn't be thrilled, but at least I would know that the Dolphins were able to get a win in January and win the AFC East, and that would give me a good vibe going forward into year 4 with Mike McDaniel. So to me, that is the bare minimum for the Miami Dolphins. That is the expectation. And you can chime in down below. Will the Dolphins win the AFC East? I think it's the bare minimum expectation. I will also predict they do that by going 11-6 this upcoming year. Let me know your thoughts down below. Anthony again with a question. I like Tyreek, but I don't want to make the same mistake we did with paying one position half of our cap like we did with the corner position with Byron Xavier. I get that, Anthony, but when you think of your two wide receivers, you're talking about two top 15, top 20 guys, and we've talked about it over the past week or so, how Tyreek Hill is either the best or the second best wide receiver in football. Like, you have to pay that. You don't let those guys leave your team. And I would understand the hesitations of paying a combined $60+ million to two wide receivers. I get it. But you just simply have to. Like, I'm not in the market of losing top wide receivers. And the way you're going to have to combat that long term when you're paying Tyreek and Jalen Waddle that much money is hitting on cheap wide receivers either in free agency, on vet-min deals, or hitting on draft picks late where you don't have to spend high capital to get new wide receivers. That's why I'm so bullish on Malik Washington. Is he going to have the greatest impact year 1? I'm not so sure, but at least if you pay Tyreek and Jalen Waddle more than $60 million combined, which you're going to have to do, I do trust going forward after year 1, Malik Washington can be your third wide receiver and slot guy on a 6th-round contract. Yeah, that will play. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because you will never miss a piece of Dolphins news. We're getting so close to Dolphins training camp. 2 weeks until rookies report and about 2.5 weeks until veterans report. So make sure you come join us for that coverage as we get you ready for the upcoming season. Jay Hack with a question. What were the reasonings to let Van Ginkle go? He was a workhorse and had a good motor. Yeah, it's certainly disappointing that Andrew Van Ginkle left in free agency. I know, shout out Sherry May, big fan of Andrew Van Ginkle. I was a big fan as well. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier in the video when talking about the cap space, it's a little tough because it's like Miami has $16 million cap space now. That would have been nice to have early March. They just simply didn't have that available to them, which is why, like I mentioned, Van Ginkle, Jerome Baker, Christian Wilkins, Robert Hunt, all left in free agency. Van Ginkle leaving on a 2-year, $20 million contract to go to the Minnesota Vikings. Like, if the cap space that Miami had now was available to them back in March, I'm sure they would have liked to keep him, as he was a really good edge rusher and linebacker in that Dolphins defense. He was a good workhorse. Like, Jay, everything you're saying is right. It just is disappointing that at least at that point in time, they didn't have the money to sign him to a 2-year deal. It just simply is what it is. Chris with a question. What is your biggest regret of the Dolphins offseason? This is a great question, and it's a really brutal one to answer if we're just going to be completely honest here. I like the signings. Like, I'm not regretting signing any of these guys. I like Jordan Brooks. I like Jonnu Smith. I like Kendall Fuller. I like Jordan Poyer. Like, there's no regret to me of making a signing. And it's going to be tough to say here. I don't know if my biggest regret even is letting some of these guys go. Like, would I have loved Robert Hunt back? 100%. Would I have liked Christian Wilkins back? 1,000%. You simply couldn't do it. So it's not a regret to me because the Dolphins didn't have a choice. They couldn't offer that. The biggest regret I might have, and it's gonna maybe come back to haunt me, and I've said in the past, I love Chop Robinson, but picking him at 21 could end up being a mistake. I like Chop. Don't get me wrong. I've been telling about you guys about how good he's going to be, and I think he is going to be a good pro. But I wanted the Dolphins to select Graham Barton out of Duke, the interior offensive lineman, at pick 21. I thought he would have been able to play center if needed. Thought he would have been able to play right guard if needed, as that is the biggest need for this Dolphins team. And I get you needed edge depth. I get that. But I think you could have had a long-term interior offensive lineman on this team by selecting Graham Barton. We'll see how Chop does this season. If he proves me wrong, I will be very, very happy. But passing on Graham Barton might be my biggest regret of the Dolphins offseason. Shout out your favorite current Dolphins player for me down in the comments section. During our live show when we asked this question, we got a couple Zach Sealers. That was kind of electric, but let me know who your favorite Dolphins player on this team is right now down below. Also get this Dolphins t-shirt combo on sale for $25 off. Yes, you heard that correctly. Chatsports.com/Dolphins combo. That's where you can get these two shirts. Link is in the description and comments. I have mine. Get yours today. Fins fans with a question. Is Tua worth it? Yes. He is. And I know this might cause a ruckus down below, but I'm going to stand firm in what I believe. And I understand that some of you might not want to give him $53, $54, $55 million per season. Do I think he's worth that? I actually don't. Like, in a vacuum, I think he's worth $47, $48 million per season. But the truth is, the market is the market. Tua said it himself. It's the truth. Jared Goff's getting paid $52 million. That's the baseline for Tua. He's younger. He's putting up the same production, and the offenses aren't that different. Yeah, the Dolphins have better weapons, but when you factor in the running game that Detroit has, the offensive line, the tight end, Amon-Ra St. Brown, like, it's not too far behind in terms of weapons. So $52 million is the baseline, and I also think Tua's right there with Trevor Lawrence, if not better, and he got 55. It's just the going rate for quarterbacks. You have a top 12 QB on your team. Got to pay him. The grass is not greener. I don't know who Miami would replace Tua with if they did not pay Tagovailoa. So to me, you got to do it, and that makes him worth it. Anthony Manzano, another question. Are there any linebackers on teams that are in the middle of rebuilding that are young that you'd be willing to trade for that fit the scheme that Anthony Weaver is going to run? Anthony, here's the thing, though, with the linebackers. I think we're pretty good. Maybe this is just me, and maybe this is a question for, like, next off season potentially if it doesn't go the way I think it will. But, man, you got a really good top three in my eyes. I'm a fan of David Long Jr. entering year 2. I'm a fan of Jordan Brooks coming over from Seattle because he's a downhill, run-stopping linebacker who provides you with a nice little thump. And I mean thump, like, he hits you hard. Will pop your pads. But you also added Anthony Walker Jr., bring him over from Cleveland, who's one of the highest graded coverage linebackers over the past 2 seasons when he was playing for the Browns. So your 3 linebackers are very versatile. Anthony Walker will be your sub-linebacker who plays in obvious passing down situations. Jordan Brooks will be your obvious rundown linebacker. And then you have your main guy, David Long Jr., who will always be on the field as long as he's not hurt because he can both stop the run and play in coverage. I think your linebacker group is really, really good. It's not necessary to go out there and make a trade. So for that reason, Anthony, I don't think you're going to have to be on the lookout for any linebackers asking out. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. If you didn't get your question featured on our mailbag or missed our live show, you can get a question to me personally over at my Twitter at Nic_Rohloff. So go give me a follow. My DMs are open. You can shoot me a question. I'm not going to be shy about answering it. So go give me a follow, and I'll see you with a video tomorrow. Go Fins.